It's been a few months since the US URP had their little fiasco. Turns out an old, really old mob boss was running some experiments under HQ. Shady ones deemed worthy of doing for the survival of humanity, but were ethically gray. Not that I care, I just follow orders. They were capturing the cells from a legendary Pokemon, Zygarde, with the goal of implanting them with chips that I could only assume would force them to do their bidding. But after the secret got out, 2 of his agents named Silver and Ruby escaped with a lot of the Zygarde cells, chips already implanted, though they left even more behind. We've been gathering up as many as we can find around Neo-K, but it's been tricky because...
Listen up, we've got a massive DOF approaching Cerulean Hospital. I can only assume it's a target due to the presence of Lilith.
On it! Right, Lilith, the US URP head scientist. She didn't take the loss of Giovanni into the underground lab very well. It was a project she started and a secret she held close. She's been in and out of consciousness since.
A new Pokemon, and yes, the original purpose of this project, an edgy T-rated Pokemon action JRPG. And a big JRPG trope is, of course, a lot of this. Pokemon is no stranger to human characters with some resemblance, though they never go as over the top as a lot of other JRPGs. They gotta keep that E rating, but no more. And being such a prominent aspect of many JRPGs, we've already included plenty of human characters with some revealing outfits. And now we have a Pokemon that is kinda just a boob reference. There have been other Pokemon who manifest mammary remarks, but perhaps none as direct as this since Gen 1, though we did leave it at cactus spikes. This is Sopaiktus, based on the many cactuses named after human breasts. No, really, the Myratilocactus Geometrizons Fukuroku Ryusinboku. If I sing it, it's a little easier to pronounce, but it's also known as the Japanese boob cactus. It's prized for its resemblance. Maybe don't boop these ones, though. While native to Mexico, they've been cultivated in Japan to achieve this shape. But it's not like the idea to give them this shape came out of nowhere. Mammillaria is the scientific term for an entire genera in the cactus family, and yes, the name pulls from mammary, as in the mammary glands in human chests. Males too. Though more specifically, both pull from the same Latin root word, mammilla, meaning nipple. These cacti are the very round, almost spherical ones, and another distinctive feature on them is how they have an areole. In the context of cacti, it's the little bumps that have spikes going out in all directions, but then in human anatomy, it is the area around the nipple itself, which tends to be larger on larger mammaries. Obviously, I can't show you on YouTube in a Pokemon video, but trust me. Now, cacti, of course, flower, and flowers are typically associated with femininity, since they are pretty and delicate. Cactus flowers are too, but they are surrounded by big, mean, and tough, ouchy spines. So then, with the context of Neo Kanto being a cyberpunky city, that immediately gives me the idea of the, sexy, awesome, hot, but will beat you to death delinquent trope that I'm sure has a real name. I immediately think of the Mox from Cyberpunk 2077, the bouncers at a strip club, essentially. They've got looks that can kill, and weapons and attitude to do it too, if you dare wrong any of those inside the club. Built tough from the inside out, and willing to do anything to protect their girls inside. An edgy trope for sure, and one in need of an edgy mon with an edgy name. Sopaiktus comes from cactus, obviously, but also sounds like super, as it's super-powered with a super punch, but more specifically, it comes from the Japanese transliteration of spike, Supaiku, which both relates to spikes, the cactus thorns, and spikes, the rapid arm movements, the punches, the slaps. Sopaiktus! Slip an O in there and you get Opai Japanese for boob, because it's edgy! Mature humor!
Rated T for teen.
And both the flower buds in the hair and the punchy gloves are reminiscent of other cactus parts, like the fruits. This grass-fighting type delivers devastating blows with its thorny fists, which are able to puncture even steel walls. Along with its rough skin or iron barbs ability, its signature move, Spike Punch, is essentially Needle Arm, though replace the chance to flinch with it leaving behind spikes, the pokey entry hazard that damages Pokemon entering the battlefield, though at the cost of some of Sopaiktus' HP. Those spikes were attached to it, but any pain is worth it to protect those she cares about before any harm can really be done.
Crap. Captain, we've got a group of Scrafty working with the DUP. Looks like they're controlled by the red mist.
What? That shouldn't be possible. I'm heading to your location.
Good old Neo Scrafty. As if the Dark-type Scrafty wasn't enough of a hoodlum, now it's added Poison-type to the mix. As many lizards are venomous themselves, rather than wearing baggy pants and a hoodie out of its own shed skin, it now wears a foul-smelling cloak, which when completely covered by, it can easily hide amongst the piles of trash bags spread across the streets of the poorer parts of Neo Kanto City. And when an unsuspecting stray Pokemon approaches in hopes of a meal, the Scrafty, ever crafty, gets one instead. And it doesn't need to catch its prey then and there, all it needs is to scratch its prey and wait. For even if it runs away, the poison inside will cause it to fall eventually. Many lizard toxins work simply as anticoagulants, which prevents wounds from healing, meaning even a relatively small wound can be deadly. And this Scrafty delivers its poison with more than just its Crogunky fist spike. It uses its toxin like a hairstyling product to keep its head crest sharp and upright, resembling a punky mohawk with sideburn combo. Its toxic crest resembles a buzzsaw and is equally as sharp. And its toxic headbutt attack has a chance to either cause poisoning or a flinch if the target is already poisoned. Brutal.
All right, Tsuboni, let's stretch those legs. Tsuboni.
Who's that Pokemon?
Real quick, real talk, y'all are great. The support that you have all shown us over the years has been fantastic, to the point where we even kept running out of stock on things on our merch store, Noggin.net. You can go check it out now. Because, good news, we've not only restocked our fan favorites, we've also got whole new goodies. People have been asking me for pins for years, and now we've got a Noggin logo pin, a Tofrug pin, and a Land Cake pin. Remember Land Cake? It's one of my favorite Lockemon that we've come up with. It was featured in our What If Alola Had a Fossil Pokemon video. I love the little dude. It's a Dickinsonia, but Alola loves pancakes, and so it just works. It's got so much cool lore. Definitely check that video out if you haven't seen it. It's also one of my favorites. And soon, Landcake is going to be regionally variantized in a future project. But commissioning all that art obviously costs money, and that's exactly where the funding we get through Noggin.net goes. Right into our artist commission fund, so we can commission more artists for even more projects. And there's about to be a lot of them. And check out our new electric type variant logo design. Blue lightning skull on a shirt, and we make sure that our shirts make is of high quality, soft, yet built to last exactly how I like it. The pins and plushies too. And we've got some more. I will forever crush Nagooey's little face. Look at how well built this is! Ugh. And it's all available through Noggin.net. Thanks so much for checking it out and for all of the support over the years. Oh, there's more. News! Swirling Seasons, the Cascade region fan-made ROM hack game featuring Tofrug, is about a third complete. The team working on it tell me that the foundation is pretty much done, and that they have asked me to pass on the news that they would now like some extra help finishing it up. Here's the help wanted sign. I'll put a link to the project's Discord server below where you can say hi and apply. That would be some advanced using your noggin.
It's Tsuboni!
Tsuboni.
For those who don't know, Shuckle's Japanese name is Tsubo. Tsubo meaning jar since it makes and stores juice in its shell, like a jar. But Tsuboni are interesting, as while they may look it, they don't seem to be directly related to Shuckles at all. It's not a new form, nor an evolution. They just appeared in the oceans outside of Neo Kanto sometime after the Cataclysm. At best, some have theorized that the red mist altered the DNA of some Shuckle to the point of unrecognizability. Or as others have theorized, perhaps it is is a shuckle from a parallel universe. Oh, and they're much bigger than you'd expect. The rocky shell on its own is about 5 feet tall, more than twice the size of Shuckle with its head up. Their size is quite beneficial to the wild Tsuboni, as they will rapidly spin on the ocean floor to create whirlpools with which to sink ships or capture plant matter in a wide area, as well as any prey that can't escape. Oh yeah, because they're also tops. On land, they can balance their pointy bottoms and rapidly spin with a double purpose. Firstly, it stirs and mixes up all of the stored juice inside. And secondly, they can extend their giant spiky tentacles and smack them repeatedly into their enemies. They're like giant Oni clubs, hence the Oni in the name, Japanese demons or ogres. Though, sometimes when attacking, it spins too much and it gets dizzy and burps up a bunch of its stored juice, to the point where now its head is stained with it. And typically sticky. Ew. But Tsuboni doesn't just use that pointy bottom to spin like a top, it can also spin to drill itself into the ground and become unmovable, like a giant barnacle. Which brings us to its ability, Stance Change. Yep, it is an Aegis/ exclusive no more. Tsuboni enters the battle in its barricade form, dug into the ground with limbs and neck in its shell. But upon using a damaging move, it will immediately switch to bash form, swapping its stats around from a defensive tank to an offensive monster, and it will stay in this form until a move like Protect is used. Its overall design is inspired by Onigashima, aka Demon Island or Oni Island, an island in Japanese folklore said to only be inhabited by demons and Oni. Some say the island itself is sentient and can hide itself in the ocean periodically. Sometimes it'll even hover. So you could say Tsuboni would be like all of the barnacles that live around it, charged with that demon energy. But thankfully it's not evil or anything. It is still bug rock type.
They're just more tough in disguise.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them.
Gondack!
Gondack was initially genetically engineered and bred for the sole purpose of meat for Neo Kanto's huge population of refugees, most of which were from nearby regions just across the Western Sea. But some Gondack inevitably escaped their farms and proved to be excellent fighters. Let's unevolve it first, though. This is Yinyegg, a normal-type baby duckling that is so frightened by the factory farm it was born into that they seldom leave their eggshell behind. A dark twist on the classic baby bird still in its egg trope. The yellow eye here resembles an egg yolk, and along with the broken shell up here, the whole round body resembles the Taoist yin-yang symbol, a symbol of the world's polarities. Yinyegg's existence is a great thing for the people of Neo-K, but its own suffering in the factory farms, not so much. A blessing and a curse. A good and a bad. It evolves into Gondack, a fighting-type duck reminiscent of the popular Chinese delicacy Peking duck, which is quite expensive, but I hear it's also immaculately delicious. I will have you one day, Peking duck. You will get in my mouth! The golden orange color is not only similar to the color associated with the fighting type, but also is like how the skin on Peking duck gets quite golden brown and crispy. Gondacks themselves are partially featherless, which better shows off their tanned skin and their musculature. And their little booties. And now they fight with their own sense of justice, and as such tend to preemptively defend themselves. If another person or Pokemon even looks at it, and the Gondack thinks that they think it looks tasty, it will not hesitate to put them down. So prepare to be assaulted with duck-style martial arts. It may be fighting type, but it has access to many dark-type moves. This is where the name comes in. It's a Peking duck, of course. Duck, dak. But Gongda is Chinese for assault or attack as well. So Gondack. And coincidentally related perhaps, Gua Gua is Chinese for quack.
Gondack!
Good work, Bobug. Looks like another small army of Dop over there. Explode on them!
And now, good old Neo Miltank. As if this cyberpunk dystopia wasn't sad enough, think about those intense beef and dairy factory farms that pump their cows full of antibiotics and such, making them all sicker and sicker as time goes on. But at least my profits right now are better. That's the main inspiration here. While regular Miltank are still around in Neo Kanto for their milk and meat, some were genetically modified into this new form, which changes their milk production into essentially potion production. medicinal milk to help pump up the production of various medicines for people and Pokemon alike. Certain compounds in this new milk can be isolated and turned into antivenom, and there are even stray stem cells to be found within it. Of course, though, this comes at a cost. Neo Miltanks are easily bloated as their milk production doesn't stop once full, and some of the new compounds in the milk can then leach into their bloodstream if they get too full, eventually poisoning it. Hence its signature ability, Toxic Bloat. When entering battle, it poisons itself, which does have a benefit. It renders it immune to certain other status effects like paralysis, sleep, and burns, since a Pokemon can only have one of these at a time. But now, it of course needs some method to counter the constant drain on its HP by default, which is where its signature move, Magic Milk Drink, comes in. A milk drinking move that restores 66% of its total HP, rather than regular milk drink's 50%. Now, if completely left unchecked, Neo Miltank has a new evolution it can, unfortunately, fall into. Mutank. Now even tankier, this mutant Miltank's immense girth can cover and crush entire cars. And its many cysts are filled with even more poisonous magic milk. Oh yeah, because it's been poison type this whole time, if the purple color didn't make that apparent. And yes, its ability ignores that poison types are immune to the poison status effect. Sure, its milk is medicinal, but medicine famously can make you sick and even make you unalive if you take too much of it. Medicine is inherently paradoxical. Toxic venom is used in all kinds of treatments and medicines, for instance. Heck, vaccines work because they make you a little sick when you first take them. Neo Miltank will evolve into Mutank after using Magic Milk Drink 30 times without visiting a Pokemon Center. And the move only has 10 PP, so have your ethers ready. You sick monster, purposefully overdosing your poor Pokemon. I'm kinda sad now. And it's not the last GMP in Neo Kanto, that's this next one. Over the decades, chickens have been bred to be bigger and bigger, more meat per chicken, and they've been bred to grow to that bigger size even faster. I mean, they gotta be growing and breeding machines. We need so many chickens to feed all these people. And what better way to amplify their breeding capabilities than by making the males pumped full of more and more masculine hormones, and the females more and more feminine ones. This is Progick, Androoster, and Estrohen. Estrohen being the most obvious here. A hen full of estrogen, the dominant hormone in the female body, hence also the female symbol on its torso. Androgen and testosterone are the dominant hormones in the male body, hence the male symbol on Androoster. And progesterone is widely seen as a female hormone, but it is produced in the male body in equal amounts. My progesterone factories are just as powerful as my wife's, but in the female body, it is used as is, whereas in the male body, it is used as the first ingredient in making testosterone, so it really can go either way. And in being the result of genetic modification, this baby chick Pokemon was a science project, was it not? A Progick? Is that a stretch? Maybe. Projicks are born with a 1-to-10 ratio of males to females, which is the ideal ratio for chicken farms to balance out happiness, cost, and breeding potential. The initial thinking with the symbol on the egg was that it's reminiscent of the male and female icons, just lacking the extra line which defines it, which works completely on its own, like kids before puberty not displaying any sort of sex hormone results. But I've since discovered this is also the symbol of Neutroy. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Basically, complete gender neutrality and indifference towards the lack of gender in an individual. Typically a complete avoidance of gender expression in any direction, which I suppose is fitting of Progick's uncaring and indifferent eyes. Or maybe it's just traumatized from the factory farms. Based on it being male or female, it will evolve into Estrohen or Androoster. Both still normal type, but with different move pools and stats. Estrohen has more special defense and HP thanks to some of its femme traits, thicker thighs, feathers, and chicken breasts, and it being more emotionally aware and focused. Its feathers overall resemble overdone makeup, a perm, and brightly colored leggings. It's sort of your typical white woman in the 1980s. White meat! It's also like those fancy chickens with the poofy feathers on their heads, and they wear their nest like a little skirt around their waist, so they are always ready to lay some eggs. And as such, they know Egg Bomb and various healing moves, plus they have access to a wide array of ghost and psychic type moves as well, since women have been associated with the supernatural for millennia. And then Androoster, whose name also sounds a bit like Andrew, typically a man's name. Add some cock, a trice elements. A mythical rooster dragon. Notice the tail and tooth, hence its access to a variety of dragon-type attacks, as well as fighting-type moves. Typical macho man stuff, especially in the 1980s. Hence also its athletic tape wrappings, its mullet-like comb, feather in mouth like a cigarette, and its "whoa, dude, I'm tough" 80s alpha attitude. It's fitting then that its stats focus on attack with a touch of speed. It may have a bit of a dad bod, but there's some muscles up top in there. And tiny feathers resembling stubble too, and the lighter brown feathers resemble both a 5 o'clock shadow as well as a hairy chest and gut. This is truly an 80s man's man. Also, this one was fun. Special thanks to Reddit user MadJester98. We just made your dream come true.
Looks like that was the last of them. We should make sure everyone inside is safe.
Hang on. There's an unknown energy spike, the same kind your Charizard gives off.
Paul, one of these is what took me out on my last expedition.
Some kind of screwed up Zygarde. We can't let them destroy the hospital. Typical legendary crud.
Foray, drill into it!
Snookowie, pack up! Heal them!
Go all out!
We're not very effective.
That Charizard is, though. What kind of energy is that? What?
What? What the hell?
Well, I'm glad you're okay, all things considered.
Yes, though it has been lonesome in here, unable to move my body or feel Snowy's fur. Though, I don't believe I have much more time. These machines are quite the headache to operate.
Then I'll be quick. We know that you know more than you've explained in your report after the Giovanni incident. I don't care what your reasons for keeping secrets are, but it needs to come out now. Clearly, Silver and that Zygarde were doing all they could to get in here. I need to know why.
Probably because I have the rest of the living cells. I never liked the idea, but Giovanni insisted on implanting chips into each cell in order to control them if they wouldn't listen to reason. But ultimately, all that did was give the Dopf a way to directly control them. Of course, we had no idea they existed at the time, but once one happened upon a chip to Zygarde, they all learned how much more powerful they could become. It seems that finding them all was their plan. What they planned to do after, though, I cannot say.
We know Silver and Ruby were Giovanni's assistants, but what is Silver after with that Zygarde in a Pokeball?
Oh, those poor Dove. They were so cute and playful, but a few of them left the city and got infected by the Red Mist and Flagole Pokemon. Their personalities changed completely. A thirst for power grew, which I suppose is better than a thirst for blood, like most of them.
Lilith?
Yes.
What is Silver doing, Lilith?
That I cannot say. I am unaware of any ulterior motives he might have had.
Lilith, I need to know where those remaining Zygarde cells are.
Oh, yes. I am not sure I remember.
Lilith, I need you to try and remember with all your might. You of all people know what's at stake here.
Oh, I apologize. I'll need to get off soon. I'm not sure how much more of this I can take.
If they kept Giovanni alive for so long for being all important and stuff, why don't they do the same for you?
Oh, it's only possible with an ultra mineral of sorts we found in ultra space. We only harvested it once so that we didn't know what it was capable of, and we were never able to find it again, though we spent years searching. Through many experiments we learned what it could do to a human body, though in the end we only had enough for 2 applications. We first tested it on Silver, who volunteered to be a Morpeko in the potentially deadly experiment. Then, after its success, we put the rest into Giovanni, who was already quite elderly, but he was also the only one with the knowledge of Pokemon cloning, which we'd need to do to have all 100 Zygarde cells again.
So Silver has the tech in him too?
Yes, and if you ever get a look at his face, you can tell he hasn't aged a day in these last 30-some-odd years. I need to go now. I can barely think straight, and thinking is all I can even do right now.
Lilith, we need to have those Zygarde cells. Where are they?
Oh, yes.
Caution. Brainwave signal fading.
This is Snowy. Please show this man where I keep all my mother's heirlooms. And thank you for staying by my side all this time. Ever since I was a little girl. I'll love you always.
Brainwave signal has been lost.
Don't worry, she's still alive. Just unconscious again. For the rest of your shift, do patrol Route Theta with Sam. See if there's still any stray top.
Yes, sir.
Let's go, Ninetails. Snowy.